So hi,
Awesome.
welcome to the Good Noise Podcast. I'm Shane,
I'm Glory.
and we're here with,
Tyler from Gideon.
For,
and we're gonna have some questions to say about the upcoming album, More Power, More Pain. So congrats on that, by the way. How do you feel about the response to the announcement so far?
Oh, it's been so awesome. Whenever you record a record and you end up sitting on it for a little, which is what is the case with this album, just due to some scheduling and all of that, you always kind of start to question if you did the right thing. If it's like if it's like a year and a half out, you're like, man, we really committed to that a year and a half ago. Is it still going to be good? Even though we knew that we were proud of what we did, it's just the intrusive thoughts, they creep in. So the second that we released the first song, and then the second "More Power, More Pain" title track, it was just like, all right, we did the right thing. It's been really great. I think people are really getting it, which has been very cool for us.
Hell yeah, that's awesome. The album rocks.
Mhm. Oh yeah,
Oh, thank you.
Of course.
of course.
We put a lot of time into it. I'm glad you guys like it. Thank you.
Hell yeah.
hmm so, are you able to touch on the theme of the album and the title and how it ties into the lyrics and overall message?
Yeah, totally. I mean, so you know, being in a band is so many ups and downs, and especially when you're doing it for over a decade, it's kind of like you the big question on your mind pretty much at all times is like, is all of this like hardship, I guess, is it worth what I'm getting out, and I think one thing we've learned, uh and something that was really important to us, like a lesson that was very important to us as we were going into this, was just the fact that really to gain more control over the path of your life, like you just have to be okay with going through some shit that really sucks, and like embracing it, learning from it, and just seeing it so many times over and over, like things that on the surface seem so awful, and then we end up coming out much better for it, in the end. It really just really felt like an important thing to let everyone know. It's just like, if you want to take control over your life, if you want power over your, you know, destiny, if you will, like you're gonna go through some pain, and it's probably better to just embrace it and as part of the process, and rejoice in it almost.
hmm
Hell yeah. All
Love
right.
that.
So can you tell us a little bit about your writing process for this album?
Yeah. So our bassist Caleb and I do a lot of music writing uh, for the actual tracks, where you know some of the we it's kind of all over the place. I'm always saying, like, you shouldn't just stick to one kind of writing process when it comes to a record, especially like six records deep. You gotta, when the inspiration hits, whether it comes from just writing a riff or writing a lyric or whatever, you should just go with it where it feels natural. But
hmm
this whole process varied a whole lot. So some of the songs were ones that say, like, there were a couple tracks that I had written that didn't make the last album. So then, over in between the last album and this one, I put more work into them and brought them up. And then Locked Out of Heaven, the first track on the record, is one of those. Uh, and then Caleb and I did, sometimes Caleb would have an entire song that was just like, this is it, this is done and complete. That he does that a lot. He's kind of a freak with writing. He comes to us with like an enormous amount, which is so helpful. And then so sometimes, there's one track where uh, Caleb came up with an intro, uh, that had some slide guitar and some melodic elements, and I was like, are you cool with me writing off of the notes that you used in this, and kind of writing a song based around that? And he was like, yeah, go for it. So some of them were that, like, got one riff from him and then I would write the rest, or vice versa, or here's a demo that's a half of a song, like, what do you think? We did a lot of like swapping riffs, basically, and even some stuff in the studio ended up being written on the spot. We're pulling from another song that we decided to not use, and just taking like a heavy part out of it and putting it in. More Power, More Pain was kind of like that. One of the song, that one actually came from like 3 different sources, like written before it was 2 songs. And then there's one part that was written, like the chorus was written in the studio.
Oh, wow.
And then as far as lyrics go, Jake, our drummer, Jake, he does almost all of the lyrics. Caleb and I wrote one song each respectively. But the majority of it was him and us just being there, for moral support almost. And then we also had, Ryan Latrue, from the old guitar player from 40 Day, who does a lot of producing and stuff. He was in helping us with lyrics, kind of helping walk through the process, keep things organized and on track. So yeah, a lot of vocals were written in the studio. At least I'd say at least half of the record that vocally was written like in the studio. And also the recording process was split up and spread out in a way that like we got to do kind of half of the record, go home for a couple months, work on it more, and then come back and track the rest of it. So yeah, it was kind of a very varied process, and writing came from a lot of different ways.
That's interesting.
Yeah, oh my goodness.
Are you guys always kind of a band that will write at least something in the studio? Because it sounds like a good chunk of this record was written in the studio.
Yeah, I mean, I will say prior to getting there, we had something like 24 to 26 tracks.
Oh, wow.
That were, and some of them we knew already, like, okay, this is gonna be on the record, or we knew this is probably not gonna be on the record, but let's bring it in anyway. And depending on which ones we keep, maybe it does fit or maybe it doesn't. But yeah, I mean, vocally, we like to do that. We like to do a lot of vocals later because things change a lot. We're so open to rearranging songs and making them fit better, making parts fit better or flow better. And so, for us, we're like, well, if we nail down the vocals before we do that, then everything changes. And so it seems a little more productive for us if we leave it open enough that we're not so tied down to the way a song is flowing, before we get there. That is a little stressful because you have a very set amount of time to finish your record. And but for us, it seems to work, and we trust the people that we record with to help us get through that.
Makes sense.
I love that. So what song off this album took the longest to write, and which one is your personal favorite?
Well, longest to write, that's a good question. I would say they like I said, most of them were written, and I would say More Power, More Pain would probably be the one that took the longest because it was so pieced together while we were there. And I can't really say that about most of the other ones. So I'd say technically that one it had riffs from years ago that were written by Caleb. Like the whole beginning and majority of the main parts of that song were written by Caleb years ago. So, and it was in a different tuning and all this stuff. So technically that one took a good, 3 years to really become fully fleshed out and done, and somehow worked so well anyway that we were like, yeah, this one, we would have put that song out first if we could, but we just thought, no sense in it's really hard to choose how you release them, but in our minds, More Power, More Pain was going to make a great splash, and we didn't want to kind of give everything in the first release, but we already knew that song was going to be awesome, even though there's so much on the record to choose from.
There's no sense in blowing the album title on the lead single if you're not announcing the record with it.
Yeah, exactly.
Yeah,
I'm so excited that album that we ended up naming the album after that song, mostly because we were like, this song is just gonna speak for the entire album. It's one of my favorites of the album for sure.
Hell yeah.
Mine too.
That does tie in
Awesome.
perfectly to the other question that Gloria asked, which is your personal favorite off the record.
Yeah, personal favorite. It's a toss up. It feels like it changes every day because we tried to show like every face of Gideon throughout time, I guess, in a way. So it's if you'd ask me, like, it's hard to say. When I think of like which old, there's one song on the record, "I Will Carry You," that I feel like was really cool, throwback to me that feels really important, um, to like our original style. That one's fun, and I, you know, did some stuff that was really fun guitar wise. So you're asking the guitar player, and that would make that one up there on the list.
All right.
But "More Power, More Pain," I still think is hard to beat. That's probably my favorite on the record. That one, or oddly enough, there's "Midnight Blue." That song, it's one of my favorites. It's a little different than the rest of the record and really fun to me.
Oh yeah.
Mhm.
So how did the track list for the album come about? Did you guys write the opener be the opener, closer be a closer? Did you shuffle around and see what fits? What was that process like?
So the closer was written as a closer for sure. And
Mhm.
that would be the outro track that is, um, just kind of like a bookend on the record.
Yeah.
Um, the opener, it just when we laid all the songs out in front of us, we were like, what's going to be something that kind of gives the vibe of what is to come in the first few seconds of the song. Um, And so that song starting out with a fun little beat and a weird singing thing, and then hitting you with the insane heavy riff, we were like, this is gonna make an impression. We like the feeling of starting an album like this, almost like ramping up,
Hmm.
where it starts low with the talking sample and kind of comes in, and smacks you when everybody kicks in. But yeah, man, as far as the rest of the track listing goes, it's like, really, it's one of those things that just seems to come from listening to it a lot, and it all just fell into place. And when it feels right, it feels right, and it feels like there's no other way that it possibly could be in in order.
Makes
It's a
sense.
really
Yeah.
weird thing, but it really happens like that. Listen to it a lot, and you're like, this one has to go before that one, which has to go after this one, and then it's like, well, that was the perfect order. Then, you know,
You
it's
brought up
very odd.
talking samples. Like, how did you guys kind of choose which songs got those samples?
Yeah. Well, when it came to that whole story that is kind of being told through those, um, that's another thing that really just kind of fell into place. They We try to make things like, when it feels right, you stick with it.
Mm.
And a lot of them in our own way, in a vague way, sometimes, and sometimes more direct, but they all kind of they all kind of have something to do with what the songs are talking about, at least. And
Yeah.
it's more about the overall vibe of of the story, kind of paralleling the things we've been through in our lives,
Hmm.
and especially when it comes to our life, which is entwined with this band and the history of this band. um, it all just it resonated so much that we felt it was an important thing to paint a picture, without explicitly just saying exactly what has happened to us.
Yeah.
Which gives it a little more. It makes it feel a little more artful to us, a little less on the nose, I guess. You know.
Gotcha.
Makes sense.
Yeah, absolutely. So would you be able to tell us where your headspace is at while you're creating this record?
Yeah. Coming out, I'm sure you guys have had a lot of interviews that end up in this part of the conversation, but like, the pandemic was something that really made you. It was like, we were just like everyone else. We kind of felt like, I don't even know if this will ever come back. Will this ever even come out? But
Hmm.
it was such a passion thing, because it felt like, while writing this, it felt like that was all we had. That was some sort of, shadow of who we felt we were before the pandemic happened. Um, it was like us holding on for dear life to the one thing that makes us feel like alive, I guess, you know.
Yeah.
And so writing this thing, it kind of felt like it was like, well, if we're not sure where we fit when this all comes out, then it needs to be the best thing we've ever done. Um, and you know, that's what I was thinking throughout it. It was like we have to have something that we feel is undeniable, because we don't know where everyone's going to stand when all this comes out. And not that you're not always doing that, but it felt extra dire at the time, you know.
Yeah.
So, as did a lot of things for a lot of people. But that was our journey at the time. It was like, you know, to an extent, we feel like we're always proving ourselves, but and we'll probably never not be trying to prove ourselves. And that's kind of the nature of what we do. But that felt extra important. So yeah, there was a lot of, you know, it was like, what is this all for, you know? And
Mhm.
especially in the context of, you know, like what I was saying about how the title kind of ties in. It's like we were feeling a lot of things. We were feeling a lot of painful things. And but we knew that if we were able to hold on, that we would be able to, you know, this was a chance, more of an opportunity if we decided it was an opportunity, you
Yeah.
know.
Um, so like with this being in the pandemic and you guys kind of setting out to like, we've got this time, we're gonna make like the best thing we possibly can because like we don't know what tomorrow's gonna look like. How did you guys kind of know when it was time to stop and like you had your finished product?
Well, I mean, we've never had, you know, it came down to trying to time, you know, it was difficult to, and you know, hence the, you don't want to come back too soon and then end up having to come back home, and you know, we're in the middle of that. So you know, that came down to, we tried to wait as long as we could, just to make sure that we didn't do all that for nothing and have to, you know, try to go tour it and end up canceling a tour again. It's very traumatic.
Mm.
And so, but you know, once we had about, even when we were at like 16 songs, I was like, if we have to go today. Like I think we can make it happen. But they're in the process when I don't, it's hard to recall exactly which songs were done earlier, but like you always have these goals. Like we need a song that's like XYZ. We need a song that does this. We need a song that does that. And even if you got 20 songs, you're thinking, okay, let's at least do one more that has this particular feel, or you know, whatever, because we know we're going to need more of that. These other, you know, some of the other feels, it's like, okay, we have that covered. We've got like three or four that are contenders for that, you know. So yeah, once it felt like all of our bases were covered, we had choices. We had a lot of choices to make, you know, especially in the first week of being in the studio, because you got to choose pretty quickly and then pursue those, uh, you know, and leave the rest because you're on a time schedule. But yeah, I'd say once we had like 20 songs, we were like, we're not going to put 20 songs on a record. So I think we're pretty close.
Yeah, fair enough.
Yeah.
So how do you recommend your fans to listen to this album for the first time? You say do it in the car with friends and talk with headphones on. Is it a workout album, party album? What do you personally recommend?
I'd recommend a good set of headphones and start it from the beginning, close your eyes and listen to it all the way through the end.
Hell yeah.
This
Absolutely.
is one of those, like, you know, we've never put a record out that was this long. Uh, and we would never put a record out that was this long if we didn't feel like everything in it was really important. But also it was, you know, we've put out a lot of records and we knew we wanted to do this one day. And we wanted something that was really an album that was made to be listened start to finish. Trying to achieve both the single abilities, you know, ability to put out the singles, and that is a very delicate balance. But I feel like with the stuff we did between the songs and everything, I think the vibe of it all uh, really lends itself to being listened to start to finish.
I agree.
Absolutely. So this one should be super, super quick off the top of your head. I want you to describe this album for new listeners in 3 words. No more, no less.
3 words.
Mhm.
I'm gonna say number one, it's got to be the first word's got to be heavy for
Mhm.
sure. The second word, I'd say, I want to say fun. That's what I want to say, but I feel like there's a more descriptive word for that. But we'll stick with fun for now.
Okay.
Okay.
Heavy, fun, and I don't know. How about unexpected?
All right.
Ooh, that's perfect. I love it.
Yeah.
Because I feel like just when you think you know what's coming, like you'll be surprised with a lot of the stuff on the record. I hope anyway.
Hell yeah.
100%. Yeah.
So in that same train of thought, is there a certain feeling or emotion you want listeners to have while going through the album?
I want them to feel empowered, you know. I want them to know that it's okay to go through shit. So and that like you're better off for it, like I was saying earlier. So I would hope, whether it's being at the gym or whether it's just sitting and you're going through some shit, or I want them to feel confidence.
Mhm.
Hell yeah.
I love that. Love that. So are you able to talk about any particularly challenging or standout moments from the creation of the album?
Yeah. There's one track on this album that um we knew that we wanted it to be. It's just crazy how I know I keep saying that things just fall into place, but it's just really like that sometimes with when it when things start to come together, these things just naturally happen that seem to work the way exactly how you need it.
Mhm.
But the track "I Will Carry You" was one of the last tracks on the record to be written vocally,
Mm.
and we knew that it was going to be. We wanted something that was going to touch on emotion a lot, because that's something throughout every album that we've done, that we tried to make sure to include, because we feel it's important to be able to relate through when you're going through some shit and you're listening to an album. Like, if there's a song that really you feel the emotion come out, like it's very therapeutic and kind of cathartic.
Mhm.
And so we already knew that we wanted that, because I put that song together to be musically emotional.
Mhm.
And then Jake, our drummer, one of his close friends back home, into like a few days into the recording process, died in a car wreck.
Oh.
And it was really rough, because there was like COVID protocol for us, like when we were in the studio, and like we weren't able to leave and come back and still make the time
Mhm.
work. And so it was a very difficult time when that happened, where I know it was rough on Jake, like trying to decide, like do I need to leave right now and like stop this whole process, or is there something I can do from where I am that will not only help me through it, but honor the situation.
Mhm.
And so we encouraged Jake, like, to put what he was feeling into a song. And I was like, well, this is the song, man. Like, this was always going to be the song, it
Mhm.
seems.
Yeah.
So this one was made for that, whether we knew it or not. And so so that song "I Will Carry You" ended up being that, and Jake really, really stepped up and made something very powerful in my eyes. And I don't even know that I have met his friend that passed, but if I had, it was only briefly at a show, maybe many many years ago. Uh, but it still hits me every time, because I know what it's like to lose friends too, and I hope that it does it for other people too. But yeah, that was a very standout moment for me. One of those things. It's like awful and surreal, and therapeutic all at the same time.
Absolutely. So since you're on tour right now, we have to ask, what's been the go-to snack of choice at a gas station?
It seems to be we go and we. I'll just come out and say it. It's zebra cakes.
Okay.
Zebra cakes.
Oh,
We
okay. Okay.
we go, we go
Fine.
through phases as a band where it's funny where I feel like we all are on one snack at once.
Mhm.
And we've
Makes it
been on
easy.
that. Yeah, we've been on that one for about a year. You stop at a gas station, you look at each other, and zebra cakes, and we just go.
You just telepathically communicate. I don't
Yeah,
know if
yeah.
that snack is better or worse. We literally just interviewed for the Fallen Dreams,
Okay.
who you're on tour with, and
Yeah.
Chad said that last night he had a what
Oh
was
my
it,
God. It was a
buffalo
buffalo chicken mac and cheese panini.
from Wawa.
The fuck was that? I'm
Disgusting.
still hurt from that.
Yeah, Wawa has been. I was just telling a friend in the show earlier that we've eaten Wawa about 6 times on this tour. Started in Florida, where there's a lot of Wawa, and then coming up to this area up in the northeast,
Mm-hmm.
where there are also a lot of Wawas.
Yeah.
Yeah, it just keeps happening. They're open late. It's decent,
24 hours, man.
Mhm.
comparatively. Yeah.
Yeah.
Yeah, I had a pierogi quesadilla the other day that was pretty gnarly. That was good. Mashed potatoes on a quesadilla.
Yeah.
Gotta try it.
Oh yeah.
Maybe I will. Have you had a chance to try the buffalo chicken mac and cheese panini?
No,
I hear it's
no,
great.
I haven't. No,
Oh,
I
damn.
actually, yeah, not yet, not yet. I'm actually, I don't eat chicken, so I'll have to
Ah.
wait for them to make a vegetarian one, and then I'll be in there for sure.
Oh, hell yeah.
Fair enough.
I'm not afraid. I'll try it.
Gotcha. Wait. So on the topic of food, if the band was a dish, what dish would the band be and why?
I'm gonna say Thai food for sure because that's one of our things that we just can't get away from. Probably a pad see ew, which is just a broccoli Thai noodle
Hmm.
because it seems to be one of our like one guy gets it and it's like the fajita effect. Like we just all go for it, and I'd
Yeah.
say partially because it's hearty but it's sweet and it's filling and that I don't know that just somehow seems to fit us.
All right. Sounds good.
big
Absolutely.
big big bearded Southern boys all yeah hearty but we're sweet and it can be a little spicy sometimes. Yeah,
Okay.
that's us.
Sounds good.
It's perfect.
So for the last couple of questions, we're gonna shift completely away from music and go straight to death row.
Boom.
So
Uh-huh.
if you're on death row, what would your last meal be with a drink?
With a drink. I already have this picked out. It's just so niche though. But there's this Vietnamese, I don't eat, like I said, I don't eat meat anymore, but I still have this one dish that is my death row dish. It's like a Vietnamese beef stew, spicy beef stew, and probably like a Thai tea or something.
All right. Sounds
Thai
good.
tea is amazing. Yeah,
Thai tea, that's so good. Yeah.
delicious. So if you could live in one fictional world for a week, where would you live?
Probably like under underwater and like Little Mermaid time or something, or not
Hmm.
time, but the Little Mermaid world with
Yeah.
just fish around. If you could, with talking fish and under the water, I don't know, something about that seems pretty magical. I'm
Hell
gonna
yeah.
go with
That's
that.
actually like the first time we've gotten Little Mermaid, which is awesome because the underwater scene is insane. I think it would be awesome.
It's
Yeah.
crazy. I mean, we're talking full musical numbers, talking fish. Like,
Exactly.
what else is there?
Whole kingdom,
Exactly.
no discourse
The
that we've
kingdom.
seen. Maybe there
Not
are a
that I
couple
know
underwater
of.
wars, but exactly, we don't
Yeah,
know of
yeah.
them.
Ursula, she's defeated
Tried
by
by her, yeah.
now.
Oh
Sure.
yeah, yeah.
Yeah, she's out of the picture. We're good.
All
So
right.
like Atlantis or something.
Yeah, that'd be awesome.
Hell yeah. So I have the honor of asking the last question, and every single person that we've spoken to have said that is the most important question. What's your
Okay.
favorite color?
Oh,
Yeah.
blue.
Nice. Specific
Oh.
shade of blue.
No specific shade. I like all blue.
Okay.
It's funny though. I don't really like to wear blue. I don't even like to buy things that are blue. I just like blue. I just think it's
Mm.
nice. it's good to look at.
Fair enough.
So like if someone takes a photo of me that's really cool and it's blue, like, oh, it's getting posted for sure.
That's going on the IG.
It's going straight on main. It's going
yeah.
on the timeline for sure.
So as I said, that's all the questions you have today. Is there anything that you would like to plug?
Oh yeah, I mean, just the album, March 17th, More Power, More Pain, out on Equal Vision Records.
Hell yeah.
Most important thing I could plug right now. Plus we're on tour right now. You have to check on the dates, see if we're coming to a city near you.
Hell yeah.
Not sure if this drops while we're still on tour or not, but
if it
does, then that's it. All right, cool.
All right. Well, thank you for now. It's been Tyler from Gideon, and we have been the Good Nights podcast.